So, summer's coming. Right, it's coming fast. Now, summertime at Chaparral this year, we're going to break some rules. Now, typically at churches, what happens in summer is you kind of take your foot off the gas. You kind of ease up a little bit, get a little bit of break. People on vacation, they're out of town anyway. You got Christmas coming up really quickly, so you kind of ease off on the summer. But this year, we're going to break those rules. We're going to actually really put our pedal to the metal during the summertime. We're going to go to one service in June. And the reason for that is we're going to have big events after every service throughout the summer. Sometimes it'll be a water day for the kids. It may be laser tag. It might be or Top Golf. It might be going to a movie. It might be a burger burn, like a cookout, pool party, whatever. We have these events lined up for you in a couple weeks to see what's going on. We want to make the summers at Chaparral days you simply just don't want to miss. Like, you want to be here because it's going to be awesome. And so that's going to be our summers here at Chaparral. We'll let you know all about that. The series we'll be doing will be called Flip Side, looking at the upside-down life of the kingdom of God, and that'll be what we'll be talking about throughout the summer. So hope you come out for that. Bring a friend and have fun as we kind of just do life together here this summer. Now, speaking of rules, people in general will be those who tilt toward being rule keepers and those who tilt toward being rule breakers. How many of you here, in general, tilt toward being a rule keeper? Raise your hand. Rule keepers. Okay? Now, how many of you, well, never mind, I'm not even going to ask the rule breakers because you won't raise your hand at all, most likely. Yeah, because you're going to break the rules anyway, right? So we got these ideas of keeping rules and breaking rules. The other day on Facebook, someone posted one of those questions, it said, describe yourself in one word. I wrote, bad at following directions. So, it's a rule-breaking kind of thing. Rules aren't necessarily bad things, though, right? Rules create boundaries. Rules help us know where we are. And once we know where the rules are, where the boundaries are, we can say, okay, my job now is to stay within those boundaries. I know what I got to do. I got to just kind of stay within these rules, and I'll do all right. Rule keepers are the kind of people that when you play a board game with them, what's the first thing they do? Open the box and look at the inside of the box cover, because there they've stapled the rules. And they'll sit there and read you the rules to the game of life before you play it, which is just awesome. Rule keepers are the people that when they go to the bank and it's empty, not a person around, they're the ones who follow that little serpentine thing back and forth until they get to the teller, right? What do rule breakers do? Clip, walk right to the front, right? So we have these different kinds of people. But a lot of us, I think, have a little bit of rule breaker and rule keeper in us. I grew up in Northwest Indiana, just south of Chicago, by the steel mills that are up there. And the area was mostly a bedroom community for those mills or for Chicago, but it was also a farming community. So we had a lot of old dirt roads, 2-lane roads, middle of nowhere, that had those little single yellow stoplights. You know what I'm talking about? They hung in the middle of the road just for that 2-lane road crossing each other. We had a lot of those. And so middle of the night, you're going home from someplace, and you go to a light, and you stop, and it's red. And it's red forever. Now, how many of you would sit there and wait for that light to turn green? You'll wait until your car goes empty, right? You'll wait until the cop shows up or the sun comes up before you turn, right? Okay, you guys. Anybody here break the rules a little bit? You'll go to the light and you'll be like, oh, fine. Take a right on red and you go down the road, make a nice clean U-turn at a legal place. You come back, it's red. So what do? Take a right on red, you go straight, find a U-turn until you get to where you're going to go. Anybody do that? How many of you would wait and go, no cops there, boom, and take off? Anybody? Yeah, okay, probably me too, right? So there's a little bit of rule breaker in all of us. Now, here's the thing. It's part of our culture, right? Anybody hear this phrase, truth in advertising? Yeah, I've heard of unicorns too, right? Look at this right here. Here's a company called Just Forks, a knife store. Really? That's true. Sometimes breaking rules can be kind of fun, like in office pranks. It says here, do not print labels unnecessarily. Okay. This next one, I think we should all do at work this week. This one's an awesome rule breaker. Look at this one here. Putting M&Ms and Skittles in the same bowl. That's just mean, right? You look for some chocolate and you get a Skittle, which are just terrible. Okay, sometimes we break rules just to break rules, like this one here. Place stamp here and you put it right next to it. Awesome. That's pretty funny. Or having an after 8 dinner mint before 8. It's kind of breaking a rule. So there's a little bit of rule breakers in all of us. Like this next sign right here, it says, please don't read the next sentence. You little rebel, I like you. Okay, that's the thing. It's a part of who we are. When we get up in the morning, there's rules. When we ignore our bedtime, there's rules. When we drive to a restaurant, we got to follow rules of the road. When we get to the restaurant, we got to decide what we're going to eat. Our lives are contingent upon all these decisions we make, and a lot of them deal with boundaries and rules. But the hardest rules, the most difficult boundaries, are the ones inside of ourselves, right? The rules we make inside of us. Are we going to cross those rules? Are we going to cross those boundaries? Our integrity. Are we going to live by our own code that we've set for ourselves or not? Because, the external boundaries are hard. Don't get me wrong, they're hard. But the internal ones are hard too. Like fear. Fear is often an internal boundary we've set for ourselves that we don't want to go past that line because it'll cause us difficulty or pain. And so we create these boundaries, these comfort zones, these comfy couches of our lives, because if we go past that line, for us, it's going to cause us some pain or to risk something. And we just kind of begin to create these internal boundaries for ourselves. And those are the ones I want to talk about today. Because those internal boundaries cause risk, difficulty, discomfort. Like we wonder, what do folks think about me? That's a boundary we put inside of ourselves. Will I fail if I try that? Do I have a strength to finish what I've started? Maybe I shouldn't even start. What if I fail? What if folks make fun of me? Those are all internal boundaries we've placed in our own heads. And we wonder, do we have the courage, the strength, the bravery to cross those boundaries? God himself broke boundaries, right? Back at Easter, we said that God looked down at our situation, that we broke the rules, that we got ourselves into a real mess. And God didn't sit in his throne in heaven behind the nice little safe boundary. He crossed that boundary. He broke those rules, and God himself, the Creator, came and became part of the creation. He walked our streets, ate our food, slept on the ground, hung out with us. He broke rules. When we crucified him, he broke rules. The rule that says, when you die, you stay dead, he broke that rule. And love rose up to take care of us. Over the last few weeks, we talked about how love breaks rules itself. Love doesn't say, well, I'll do it if I get credit for it. Love doesn't say, if it's big enough, I'll do it. Love happens in the small things, the everyday things, the compassionate things, the things that no one else ever sees. Those are the things that love rises up and does. Love is courageous and compassionate. It risks and it reaches. It's brave. And love will break those rules it needs to show love to other people. In 1 John 4:18 it says, there is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. And those lines inside of us are often based on fear. So are we going to allow ourselves to stay behind those lines? Or are we going to have the courage to go beyond them? Are we going to sit on our little couches? Because here's the truth. If you want to follow Jesus, you can't sit on your comfy couch. He says, come follow me. I'm going to be crossing some boundaries, breaking some rules. You going to come with me or not? He says, go and make disciples of all nations. You have to cross some boundaries to do that. Now, please don't hear what I'm not saying. Okay, please don't hear what I'm not saying. What I'm not saying is break all the rules. total anarchy. There are some rules that God has put in place for our good. There are rules that are there because he loves us. There are rules that help us love other people. You with me? So don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying go break all the rules. There are good rules. So like, for example, this past week, or maybe yesterday, can you think of a time you've gotten angry? This week? Yesterday, in my case, right? Now think, in that situation, did it involve the person sitting next to you? If so, raise your hand. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. That gets you in trouble. Right? But here's the thing. You think of that situation. How'd you react? Did you blow up? Did you vent? Did you lose your mind? Because there's rules about that, right? I mean, is it good to just blow up in anger? No, right? Because there's a couple things. Number one, you're going to regret it. You're going to regret it. Number two, you're going to hurt people. It's going to splash on people, that anger. So the Bible talks about not doing that. It says you can be angry. Being angry is fine. But there's rules about how you handle it. In Ephesians 4, it says, be angry. It's okay. Be angry, but do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your anger, and do not make room for the devil. It's like, look, there's a way to handle anger. It's tough to do that, right? But there are boundaries there for our good and for those around us. Or how about vengeance, right? You get angry, and now you got to hold a grudge, and it begins to build up like a little anger baby inside of you, and just, right? And it grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. We call it vengeance. There's rules about that. That doesn't help us. It hurts us. It hurts other people. In Romans 12, it says, Beloved, never, never avenge yourselves, but leave room for the wrath of God. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I'll repay, says the Lord. Memorize that verse. I'm serious. This is a great verse. I have this one right here. Because it's so easy to get caught up in vengeance in your head. You think, if they get this, or I wish it would happen to them, and if they could just get their comeuppance. You start thinking those kind of things, and you're cutting out God. God's like, I got the vengeance thing. Now, you stay behind that line, I'll take care of the vengeance. Because that anger baby, that vengeance thing will eat you alive. And that rule is there for your good. There's a lot of lines, and some we should stay behind because they're good for us. But there's other lines you need to cross for the sake of love. There's some lines, maybe they're societal or they're lines of fear that we need to make that leap across. And it takes wisdom to know the difference. It takes wisdom and experience to know the difference between those different kinds of lines. Jesus knew there's some lines that needed to be crossed. So let me give you an example of a line that needs to be crossed that can take some real courage and some bravery to do. So Fred Craddock was a minister, preacher in the Christian churches years ago. He got his PhD in the 60s, to give you an idea of kind of how old he is and where he comes from. So back when he was getting his PhD at Vanderbilt, studying the New Testament, he would often go around midnight to go get something to eat because he's hungry and tired, some coffee, get you going again. And he went to this little dive kind of restaurant, like just a little hole-in-the-wall place. He'd get a toasted cheese sandwich or grilled cheese sandwich and a cup of coffee. So like always, he goes in, he puts his Bible down, his notes, and he's studying, drinking his coffee, eating his toasted cheese sandwich. And he has a couple of cups of coffee, finishes his sandwich, but he notices that there's been a guy standing over there the entire time he's been there. Everyone else has been served. He's got a couple of refills, but this guy's still standing there, kind of with his hat in his hand, just kind of standing there, waiting. Finally, the man behind the counter walks over to him and says, "What do you want?" He tells him what he wants, goes to the back, grills up a little like burnt, almost patty of meat, puts on 2 white pieces of bread, hands it to the guy. No condiments, no ketchup, mustard, no plate, no napkin, just, here you go. Guy gives him some money. And this black man, older gentleman in the 60s, takes the sandwich and goes outside and sits on the curb and eats the sandwich by himself. Craddock knew that's not right. He knew that is not how you treat people. He knew that was wrong. But he also knew there's a line in 1960. You don't cross it. He knew that line's there. And he knew that line was wrong. That line should be crossed. He knew Jesus, who he's reading about in the Bible, he knew he would cross that line, but Craddock didn't. And he said that night he picked up his Bible and his notes, and he went back to his room. And as he went home, he said he could swear he could hear a rooster crowing in the distance. So he knew what he'd done. He knew about Jesus, but didn't have the courage to follow him across that line. Because that was a line that Jesus would have crossed. So what lines are there around you that Jesus would cross? We need to follow him across. So I want to tell you a story today, one of my favorite stories in the New Testament, about someone who crossed some lines. Good lines that needed to be crossed. And something that's kind of unexpected. Now the story is about a woman. Now, in Jesus' world, there were definite cultural and social boundaries, as strong as there are today. And Jesus has this experience where he wants to show his disciples in a very powerful way that there are some lines that need to be crossed. And part of that process was for them to see the lines were there in the first place. Sometimes we get so comfy cozy in our little comfy cozy couches in our little comfy place that we forget there's lines there, where we've made them, but we forgot they're even there. Well, in this situation, he's going to show them what's going on. This story is in the Gospel of Matthew. And in this story, Jesus has left Judea and has gone up north into northern Galilee. And in this area is where a lot of Gentiles live. Now, Gentiles were not Jews. And so the Jewish folks saw the Gentile folks as like second-class citizens. They didn't care for them, didn't like them, thought they're irreligious. They wouldn't go to their houses. They really were just like, ew, just stay away from me. So when Matthew tells this story, look at how he opens the story. It's in Matthew 15. It says, just then, a Canaanite woman from that region came out and started shouting, "Have mercy on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is tormented by a demon." Big deal, right? But now, go back one, Austin, if you don't mind. Look at this here again. This is super important. We almost always miss. He calls her a Canaanite woman. We often just read over that and it's like, okay, we got it. Some woman's coming to Jesus. But here's the deal. There were absolutely no Canaanites living in this period at all. Not one. So she could not have been a Canaanite woman. Couldn't have. Impossible. Because a Canaanite was a person who lived in the time of Moses. Like 2,000 years before this happens, Moses is fighting Canaanites in the Promised Land. That's what's going on here. So she is not Canaanite. They're all dead. So why does the author call her a Canaanite woman? Because he's setting you up as a reader. He is telling you what this story is about. This story is about enemies, outsiders, people across the line. She is so far across the line from the disciples and Jesus that it's like a mile-thick line. You got me? So when she walks up, this Gentile woman, they see her as a Canaanite, enemy, evil, bad, wrong, separate. You got me? That's what this is saying. And Matthew's telling you that. All right, so she comes up and says, "Hey, have mercy on me. My daughter's sick, has a demon." Now, what do you think Jesus would do? "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. God bless you. I'll heal your daughter. Bring her to me." Something like that, right? Doesn't do that. You know what he does? Nothing. He completely ignores her. Isn't that crazy? She's sitting here begging, but there's a line. He knows that. There's a line. She's on that side of the line. Can't hear. Nope, sorry, you're wrong side of the line. Doesn't do anything. So then she keeps on crying out. She doesn't give up. And the disciples are like, "Jesus, like seriously?" She's like yelling and carrying on about her kid. Just get rid of her. Like tell her to go away. Like just, And he replies to them. He says, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." What he's saying is, I was sent to the Jews. I wasn't sent to her. I'm not going to talk to her. Are you kidding me? Does that sound like Jesus to you? Me neither, right? But that's in the Bible. So he ignores her, and then he's like, "Yeah, I ain't talking." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, you're right, Jesus. Disciples, yeah, we get you." Because she's like over there across the line. So we'll just kind of, got it. Does she give up? Nope. She continues to beg Jesus. to beg him to cure her daughter. And then he says this, "It is not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs." Who's the dog in the story? Who's the dog? The woman. He is telling the disciples, I am not going to help her. Because it's not fair that I take what's meant for you guys and give it to a dog like her. Now, do you think she heard that? Yeah, she heard that. So far, he has ignored her. He has told her he's not going to talk to her, basically. And now he's flat out insulted her. Jesus has done all these things to her. And the disciples are going, cool, we get it. Good job, Jesus, because, she's Canaanite, she's Gentile, she's across the line. He's showing them, right, in a way that this is where the lines are, right? They've drawn these lines. And everybody knows that she is outside the lines. Hard story, right? And a lot of theologians, if you read commentaries and stuff, try to clean up Jesus. They try to what he meant to say was this, that, or the other. What he meant to say was she was a cute little puppy kind of dog. No, if I call you a dog, I don't care what kind of dog it is, it's a dog, right? He is insulting her. The question is why? Why would Jesus of Nazareth, the Savior of the world, the Son of God, treat her like that? Well, look what happens next. Does she go away? Nope. What she says is, yes, Lord, even the dogs eat crumbs that fall from the master's table. Fine. You know what? Fine. You want to ignore me? Fine. I'm not going anywhere. You want to insult me? Fine. I'm not going anywhere. Here's the thing about her. What do we know about her? She's a woman. She's Gentile. She's a Canaanite, if you will. What else is she? She's a mom. She's a mom. This is what moms do. Moms love their kids, right? Moms don't give up on their kids. Moms don't quit on their kids. So love of this mother rises up and says, Jesus, I'm not going anywhere because I know you can do something. I have faith that you can do something. I trust that you can do something. I love my kid. I'm going to stand here and take whatever abuse you throw at me because I believe in you. I believe in my kid. I love my kid. Powerful stuff, right? This woman is setting an example of what faith looks like. Even when insulted, she's going to stay right there next to God, so to speak. And look what happens next. Jesus answered her, "Woman, great is your faith. Let it be done for you as you wish." And her daughter was healed instantly. Boom, done, like that. Because she showed love. Love rose up. Love broke boundaries. She broke the boundaries. She said, I'm not going to put up with the boundaries. It's not here. I'm coming to you. And the whole point of the story is not really about her. I mean, it is, but it's really about the disciples because they're like, what just happened here? Like, what are you, what? How, her? What's going on? What happened was he showed them the boundaries that they had laid out for themselves and said, she's what I want. I'm over here with her, guys. Come on, you come with me. Come on, across the line. We're over here. This is what I'm looking for, not what you guys are selling. You with me? So he kind of shows them their assumptions, their lines, their boundaries, their rules, and how God's not going to put up with that stuff. He wants this mom who loves her daughter and can take care of her and have faith to stay right there. And he shows the disciples that's what he's after. And they begin to see that that's what God's wanting all along, to cross those lines. Do you think they were afraid to cross lines? Yeah, they were. But Jesus said, that's where I'm going, over there. Do you see that? I'm looking for that. What about you? Are there lines in your life that God's calling you to cross? I mean, it is super easy, folks. It is super easy to kind of get in with our family and with our friends. And we begin to create these nice little comfort zone bubbles, right? Nice little cozy couches of our life. We kind of live in there. And God's calling us across these boundaries, to break these boundaries, to risk, to reach out to people, to rise up and be like, no, I'm just going to sit on my couch like those disciples. He's looking for people that are passionate, who are willing to put aside fear, willing to put aside rules and boundaries sometimes to show love to other people. Like this woman did, this mom, this great, great mom in the Bible who loved her daughter so much that she was going to cross some rules, break some boundaries to be next to Jesus. How about you? What rules are staying in the way of you having a closer walk with God? That's where He wants you, to be right there next to Him, faithfully following along. Let's pray together.